I'm doing. I don't know what 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 I'm doing. Good morning, guys. This morning I'll be reading from the Stories from Nearby and Far Away. It says Year 3, Term 1. Primary Language Arts. It's not is for free distribution. It's provided by the government of Jamaica when I was going to school. It's written by Don Wilson, Dennis Craig, and Hyacinth Campbell. And I read this book in grade 1 and I wrote my name on it. It says Ajamo. That's the only thing I wrote. And school, I wrote LRPJHS. No, I probably couldn't have spelled all my school name then, but I know the letters that start each word. So it's L, Laurel River Primary and Junior High, grade 1. All right. So let's get into the first story. It's called Lighting the Fire. Story 1, Lighting the Fire. And it starts with this picture of Peter and his grandma. It says, Peter lived with his granny. Every day she would catch up a fire in the yard to cook her food. Peter would get some sticks and put them into a pile. His granny would pour a little kerosene oil from the bottle onto the pile. After that, she would light a piece of paper and throw it onto the pile. Because of the oil, the sticks would catch fire quickly. Then she would put the big black pot onto the 3 rocks around the pile. It's like an outdoor kitchen. That's what we used to use before we had stove. Sometimes they used charcoal back then. Peter liked to watch his granny light the fire. One day he said, Can I light the fire, Granny? Please let me try. No, Peter, she answered. When you are old, you can do it for me. Fire is a good thing. Without it, we could not cook food. But it can also be a bad thing. So for all the kids out there, you should not play with fire and you should not use a lighter or match unless you're supervised by your parent. Then I'll teach you, she said, and you will have to be very careful. See, in the fire, I do not use too much kerosene oil. If you use too much kerosene oil, the fire will blaze up. So you must never try to light the fire until I tell you. Do you hear me, Peter? But Peter did not hear. He was thinking about the day when he would be older. One day, Granny was going to cook some cornmeal porridge. She put some cornmeal into a little water into the black pot. Then she told Peter to get some sticks and dry bush. I am going for a pan of water, she said to Peter. Peter got some sticks and dry bush and put them into a pile. Then he said to himself, I think I will help Grandma. I will light the fire. I'm sure I'm older than I was yesterday. He's 1 day older. I know I'm older than I was last week. So Peter poured some kerosene oil onto the sticks and dry bush. He did not see that he had poured a lot of oil from the bottle. Then he got a piece of paper and set fire to it. As soon as it was burning, he threw it onto a pile of sticks. You know that when I was I think it was Hurricane Ivan, me and my cousin, we bought some gasoline and we played with it. Let's just say you should not play with gasoline. And you should not play with kerosene oil or alcohol. It can cause damage. Luckily for us, we did not get hurt too bad, but you should not. After time, the teacher came into the room. Everyone was quiet. Then, I'm missing some pages from this book because this is a really old book. This is probably one of the first books I read. So Catching the fire is the first, lighting the fire is the first story. And let's just fill in the blanks as to what happened. He survived and he learned his lesson, and it was all okay in the end. And you can just use my story to fill in the blanks for that. So, what had happened to my cousin is the fire had caught the hairs on his leg and all of them shrunk, but nothing worse than that. So, we learned our lesson and we did not buy any more gasoline. And then it skipped a lot of pages, and this one is talking about the teacher. Peter, then it comes around here, and Peter had his granny talking to him about what happened. Peter said, "I told you to." She said, "I told you to never try to light the fire." Peter said, "I'm sorry, Granny. You put too much kerosene on the fire. You were lucky that the men came in rushing with a piece of green bush." No, what green bush does, like fire can't spread easily through green bush. If you use dry bush, it will be like kindling. It will be like what he had gone for to light the fire. But green bush, it's harder to break down, so it would kill the fire. So they can use the green bush to out the fire. That's one way you can fight a fire, using lush vegetation, or you can also use sand. Other ways to fight a fire is don't blow on the fire. If you blow on the fire, it will only cause the fire to get worse. You can fight a fire by using dirt on the fire. Dirt can out the fire. You can fight the fire by using water. But if you fight the fire by using water, if the water is not enough, what will happen is the fire will turn the water into steam, and the steam is very dangerous. So you can use dust or sand to fight fire, as well as what Grandma said, green bush. I told you not to light the fire until you were older. I'm sorry, Grandma, Peter said, and I'm sorry about the cornmeal porridge also. I threw it onto the fire. Well, you could have lost our house, so we are lucky that we only lost the porridge. After that, Granny said her head was hurting her. She rubbed some white rum on her head. I don't know if this thing still happening, but this used to happen a lot of time when old people feel in pain. They always use rum to rub their pain, and the marijuana in the rum, and it was good for everything. Anyways, then she said she was going to bed for a little. A woman from next door went inside the house to stay with her. Peter sat under a tree and rested his head in his hands. While his head was hurting him, his eyes were also burning because of the smoke. So yeah, the smoke can make your eyes feel like it's burning you. I will have to be much older before I try lighting a fire again, he said to himself. And I think that's the end of that story. And after the story, there is a poem. Can I read the poem? It says, big waves and little waves. I'm not sure if this is a story or a poem, but I think it would be a poem. So big waves and little waves. There are big waves and little waves, green waves and blue. Waves you jump over and waves you dive through. Waves that rise up like a little great water wall. Waves that swell softly and don't break at all. Waves that can whisper, waves that can roar, and tiny waves that run at you running on the shore. Big and little waves. So it's comparing different types of waves. Nice point. And the second story, let's have a little stretch. Inhale. Exhale. And the second story is the Rainmaker. It says, Jomo lived with his father. No, I'm not lying. It's not my name, Jomo. That's the name of the guy, Jomo. Jomo lived with his father on a farm in Africa. It was a very hot day. The sun was very light, very bright, like a ball of fire. Jomo wished that the sun would go behind a cloud, but the sky was hot and blue. There was no clouds at all. There were no clouds at all. There had been no rain for many weeks now. The river was nearly dry, the ground was hard, and the grass was brown. His father's cows would have nothing to eat, and all the crops would soon be dead, so they were facing a severe drought. I wish it would rain, he said loudly. Then he thought about Nami, the old witch doctor who lived in a cave. Everyone thought that the witch doctor was a wise man. Jomo would have to go and see him. Maybe Nami would, maybe Nami could make it, the rain come. Oh, and my name is, I said this before, but my name is actually an African name. It's probably from the same region of Africa, Jomo. It was just before the sun went down when Jomo reached Nyami's cave. He saw the wise old man sitting outside. Nyami, said Jomo, we need rain. Soon the cows will have nothing to eat or drink. Our crops will be dead. Jomo stopped and looked at Nyami. You are a wise old man, said Jomo. You can make the rain come. Can you make the rain come? He asked. Yes, answered Nyami. I can make the rain come. Go into my cave and get a pot that is on the ground. In the cave, there he saw a big black pot on the ground. He took up the pot and gave it to Nyami. No, I need a fire to boil some water. Please get some wood to make fire under the pot, he said to the witch doctor. As Njama was getting the wood, he looked at the sky again. It was clear and blue, the sun, but it was still hot. Jomo took up a pile of wood and went back to Nyami. Nyami said to him, No, I see. No, I need some water. Please go to the river and try to get a little water. Take something with you to carry the water. Jomo picked up a pan and went down to the river. He came back and saw that Nyami made a fire. The flames were bright. He put some water in the pot. Put some water in the pot, said Nyami. Jomo did as he was told. The fire was blazing. Before long, he realized that he actually found water from the river to come to give the witch doctor. In Jamaica, we call a witch doctor Obia man. Yeah, but this book is just using the term witch doctor. Jomo did as he was told. The fire was blazing. Before long, the water started to boil. Nyami dropped some oil into the pan, into the boiling water. He danced slowly around the fire. Suddenly, Nyami put both of his hands up to the sky and said loudly, Rain, rain, come this way, fall, fall today. Just as he said, this black cloud came into the clear sky. After the lightning flash, then came the loud noise of thunder. Nyami turned to Jomo and said, Run home, my son. The rain will come soon. I do not want you to get wet. Thank you, Nyami, Jomo said. Thank you very much for making the rain come. A drop fell on his head. Quickly he ran home. Soon the rain was falling hard. But by the time Jomo reached home, he was very wet. But he was happy. Now the river will fill up, the cows will have water to drink, and the crops will grow again. And that's the story. Nyami made it rain. There's nothing more. It's finished. I kid you not, it's finished. I don't know how he made that happen, but it happened. Number 3. The prince who could not laugh. Once upon a time, there was a little prince. His father was king of the country. His mother was queen, because that's a prince, son of a king and queen, whatever. They lived in a big palace. The little prince had everything he could want. He had many clothes. He had a big yard to play, and he had a lot of wonderful toys. But something was wrong with this little prince. He always looked sad. He never laughed. He never smiled. I do not know what's wrong with our son, said the queen. He's not happy. He never laughs. I hate to see him like this. Yes, said the king. I hate to see it too. I think I'll call the doctor. The doctor is wise. He will tell us what is wrong with him. The doctor will make him laugh. Later in the day, the doctor came to the palace. The doctor said to the king, I want you to have a look at my little boy. He never laughs. I want you to make him laugh. If you do not make him laugh, you will not be my doctor again. After that, the doctor went to look at the little boy. He looked into his eyes, he looked into his mouth, and he also looked into his nose. But the little boy did not look sick, and the doctor did not know what was wrong. Why don't you laugh? Said the doctor to the little boy. What is wrong with you? The little prince looked sad. There is nothing wrong with me, he said. It's just that I do not see anything to laugh about. The doctor walked out of the room. I cannot find anything wrong with your little boy, the doctor said. What? Said the king. I thought you were so wise. Do not come to this palace again. That night, the king and the queen talked again. We must make our little boy laugh, he said. Queen, he looks very sad. Yes, said the king, he needs to laugh. It's time we call for the man with the monkey. The monkey can do many things. The man with the monkey must make our little boy laugh. And say the man with the monkey. Oh, sorry for not showing all the pictures. That's the man with the monkey there. The next day, the man with the monkey came to see the little boy. The man with the monkey, which is like a what we call a court gesture, a court jester. Clowns basically started out as court jesters who would perform for the king, and that's what the man with the monkey is. The next day, the man with the monkey came to see the little boy. The monkey could do many funny things. It could stand on its head. It could turn over on its back. It could make a funny noise. Noise came from its nose. The king, the queen, and the prince all watched the monkey. The king and the queen laughed and laughed, but the little boy looked sad. He stood there and watched, but he just would not laugh. The king looked at the little boy. He saw that the boy was still sad. The man and the monkey must leave, said the king. They cannot make my little boy laugh. Now, the king and the queen did not know what to do. The little boy was still sad and nobody could make him laugh. The next morning, the palace was very quiet. The king was working. The queen was still sleeping. The little boy was standing at the window. The little boy looked out the window. There he saw the monkey in the street. The monkey was running after a dog. The dog was running after a cat, and the cat was running after a rat with a little piece of meat in his mouth. Around and around they ran. After a while, the rat jumped on the back of the monkey, and then the monkey jumped on the back of the dog. All of them ran after the cat. Suddenly, the little prince started to smile. Then he started to laugh. He laughed and laughed. Wake up, said the king to the queen. Our little boy is laughing. Wonderful, cried the queen. Now I know there's nothing wrong with him. And every day after that, the little boy stood and looked out the window. Sometimes he saw something to laugh at. Sometimes he did not. But he always looked outside all the same. Oh, maybe because this little boy is trapped in the palace, he doesn't find anything amusing. He's trapped in the cage. It's like the Maya Angelou poem that we read earlier in the series, Why the Caged Bird Sings, because he's trapped in the palace. He does not is not exposed to the outside world. So sometimes when their palace gestures coming in to perform for him, that does not bring his happiness. This story is saying a lot about what is presumed to be a very happy life versus what individual really wants. Because sometimes parents with money presents gift and they provide everything that they think their child needs, but sometimes their child has more intrinsic wants than that. Sometimes the child just wants to spend time with them. Sometimes the child just wants to play with their friends. And sometimes the child probably just wants to be left alone. Other times, the child might be missing someone. Other times, it may be other issues. But this story is a very deep story. Anyways, one more stretch break time. And the fourth story is Tell. And long ago, it starts long ago. And see the boy looking out the window there. Sorry for not showing them. So, and this is a William Tell story starting. William Tell. Long ago, Swiss people, and Swiss people is referring to the people from Switzerland, had a big fight with Austrians, which refers to the people from Austria. It's two countries in Europe. Swiss people put up a good fight, but the Austrians beat them. It was a sad day for the Swiss people. After that, Austrian soldiers came to stay in the Swiss people's country. The Swiss had to pay plenty of money. They also had to find food for Austrian soldiers. If they could not pay the money or find food for the soldiers, they were sent to prison. Times were very hard for the Swiss people. They hated Austrian soldiers who were in their country. They wanted to beat them and drive them out. They were all waiting for that day to come. One man was unsure that they would come very soon. But who was unsure that they would come very soon was William Tell. Then the Pied Piper, and the same thing happens. This book seemed to have been numbered wrong. Anyway, we'll come back to the story of William Tell. This skipped the story of William Tell to the story of the Pied Piper. I'm not sure if you heard about this story. It's a very popular story. But it starts in the middle of this book. I'm not sure why this book is numbered like this. It says, then the Pied Piper went to the street, he put the pipe to his mouth and played some music. Suddenly, something wonderful happened. All the rats came rushing down out of the house. There were all kinds of rats. There were big rats, small rats, fat rats, thin rats, young rats, old rats. The rats ran after the Pied Piper as he played his pipe. He took the rats into a big river near the town. The Pied Pipers stopped at the bank, but the rats ran into the river. Every one of them went in and died. After that, the people in the town were very happy. They started to dance and sing. All the rats had been gone. Then the Pied Piper went to see the mayor. All of the rats were gone. He said, no, I want my $100. $100 for the mayor? You did not work very hard. I will only give you $10. All the people said the same thing. These people are ungrateful. They had a rat problem on the Pied Piper solved it and they didn't want to pay the Pied Piper. You should always play the Pied Piper because the Pied Piper calls the tune. The Pied Piper did not say a thing. He turned around and walked away. Once again, he put his pipe to the mouth and played some music. This time, all the children in the town came rushing to him. As he walked and played his pipe, they ran behind him. Well, it comes back to William Tell. So let's continue the William Tell story. William Tell looked at the captain with hate in his eyes. He was he looked at his young son who he loved. He knew that the arrow would miss the apple and it would kill the boy. That's what the captain wanted. William Tell took out two of his best arrows. He put one in his bow. Everyone was quiet. You could hear a pin drop. Then he called out to his son, stay still. He shot the arrow and the apple dropped in two pieces from the boy. And the arrow had cut it right in two. All the people cried. The little boy ran to his father and William Tell hugged him. The captain came up, you win. He said to William Tell, arrows, were you afraid you will miss? Is that what the other arrow was for? No, said William Tell. If I miss and kill my son, the other arrow would be for you. That's a very dark story to tell kids in grade 1. Jeez. All right, so the next poem is In the Sun. In the sun, sit on your doorstep or any place. Sit in the sun and lift your face. Close your eyes and sun dream. Soon the warm sun will seem to fill you up and spill over. And here's William Tell shooting the arrow at his son. So I'll fill in the blanks of that story. I think that it would be like the story of David and Goliath in the Bible, where they put two champions together, David versus Goliath, and who win would cause the Palestinians and the Philistines and the Jews to broker peace. So the Philistines will leave the Jews alone if David win. Or if David lost, the Palestinians will take over all of their territory. Now, this was, I guess, a wager between William Tell and the Austrian army that if he managed to shoot the apple off his son's head, the Austrian soldiers would leave. So it's a similar story. It's a very dark story. Similar story. Story number 5. The Fat Girl and the Mango. A long time ago, there was a very fat little girl. She ate so much that her mother and father did not know what to do with her. In the morning, she ate 6 eggs. By the way, 6 eggs in one day is not recommended by dietitians and doctors. You should have no more than 2 eggs per day. 2 eggs, just 2 eggs. Anyways, she ate 6 eggs. At lunchtime, she would eat a whole kingfish and a big breadfruit for dinner. She ate a whole chicken and a pot of rice. All this was easy for her. What are we going to do with our little fat girl? Mother said. We do not have any money and she eats too much. Yes, father replied. She is too fat. We will have to send her to her grandmother. She will take care of her. In the morning, the father and the little fat girl started off to Grandma's yard. Grandma lived in the mountains. They would have to walk for a long time before they could reach her yard. It was not an easy walk. Before long, the little girl began to cry. I'm hungry, she said. I want something to eat. I did not bring much to eat, replied her father, and it's too early. The little girl began to cry again. They just passed a big mango tree. I see the little girl walking and crying here. Walking and crying. And then she passed the big mango tree. The little girl saw plenty of big mangoes on the ground. Her father did not stop, but she stopped and picked up one. She was about to eat the mango when she heard something. She looked at the mango and said, something is wrong. The mango was trying to say something to her. Please, little girl, please do not eat me. The little girl was very surprised. I must eat you, replied the fat little girl. I'm hungry. I'm going to eat you right now. Please, said the mango. If you do not eat me, something good will happen to you. But if you eat me, something bad will happen. The little girl laughed. You're just a mango, she replied. You cannot do anything to me. So she ate the whole mango. She picked up 10 more of them and ate them. But she was in for a big surprise. Soon after that, something happened. The little fat girl could not open her mouth. She could not talk. She could not eat. She just sat under the mango tree looking very sad. You love to eat too much, said another mango in the tree. Oh, look what happened to you. You cannot eat. You cannot talk. Your mouth cannot open. The fat little girl looked at the mango tree. She could not say anything. She just looked very sad. She looked as if she was going to cry. The mango was sorry for her. I'm going to let you open your mouth again, said the mango. But if you eat too much, I'll shut it again. No, go run after your father. He is looking for you. As the mango said, this little girl, the girl found that it was very easy to open her mouth again. Soon the little girl reached her father. She was happy to see him. I was looking for you, he said. You must be hungry now, but here is some bun to eat. No, thank you, said the fat little girl. I'm not hungry any longer. In fact, the fat girl's father was surprised to hear this, but he was happy that little girl was also happy. She could open her mouth once more. She would never eat too much again. Some of these stories are dark for 5 to 6 year olds in grade 1, but that's the education system that they knew at the time, I guess. Now, this story, the series is called Stories from Near and Far. But this story is, I think, a near story. This story is a story about Jamaica, once again. So some of the stories are set in Africa, some of them are set in Europe, but this one is one of the Jamaican ones. So it's story number 6. It says how Mount Diablo gets his name. I know a bit of Spanish, and I know that Diablo means Devil Mountain, Mount Diablo, Devil Mountain. Anyways, let's read the story and see how it really got his name. And see the pictures here. All right. So long ago, there were many Spanish soldiers in Jamaica. They took Jamaica from the Arawaks. The Arawaks lived here long before the Spanish came. But the Spaniards, another name for Spanish, the Spaniards had guns. They were used to fighting and killing other people. The Arawaks were not like this. They were peaceful people. They were not used to fighting. They used their bows and arrows only to kill animals for food. So when the Spaniards came, the Arawaks did not put up too much fight, because there was one time that they were able to kill, but there was one time that they were able to kill many Spanish soldiers. A big party of Spanish soldiers was going across the island. They were on one side of the island. They had to go quickly to Spanish Town on the other side. And Spanish Town is still in Jamaica. It's in St. Catherine. They had to go over some high mountains. The Arawaks came together in secret. They know the way the soldiers were going to take. One whole side of the mountain was nothing but rock. If you were not careful, you would slip to the bottom and kill yourself. The Arawaks killed many pigs and got fat from them. They boiled down the fat that they took and spread it on the high rocks. They put many sharp sticks at the bottom. Then they went to a secret place in the nearby bushes. This sounds like guerrilla warfare. They're teaching guerrilla warfare to kids in grade 1. Interesting. Actually, it's the first time I'm actually reading this book front to back, I think, for myself. But we would have heard these stories in class. The party of soldiers came to the high rocky side of the mountain. They started to climb down, but as they tried to climb down, they slipped into the fat that was spread on the rocks. They could not help themselves. They all slipped into the bottom. Many of them were killed by sharp sticks. And animal fat is like something, it's kind of slip. If you know, fat is kind of greasy, it's like oil. So if you step on it, you would slide. So that's what they did. The Arawaks, and see them sliding off the mountain there. They're sliding down the hill. The Arawaks rushed out of their secret place in the bushes. They shot at bows and sharp arrows. The captain of the party of soldiers got carried away. He said the place was the mountain of the devil. The word devil in Spanish is diablo. So that is one of the stories about how Mount Diablo got its name. And story 7 is going back to the Pied Piper that we started. So maybe that was just foreshadowing story number 7. So remember, we're talking about the Pied Piper that they didn't want to pay his $100. They just gave him $10 and he wandered away. So we're picking up back on the Pied Piper. And if you're tired, feel free to pause the story and return. I'm gonna give you 5 seconds to pause the story. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now let's continue. The Pied Piper, and it starts like this. You see a lot of rats on the table? Yeah. So the Pied Piper. Long ago, there was a troubled little town in a country far away. All over the town, the women and the children were crying. The babies were crying too. The men were talking and talking. Rats are all over the place, said one man. They're in our house. They're in our clothes. They're even in our beds. Yes, said another man. I can't even eat. As soon as I sit down to eat, the rats came. Last night, they took a fish from my hand. The mayor must do something to save us from rats. And rats cause a lot of diseases like leptospirosis, and they spread a lot of bacteria as well because of the way they feed in garbage. They also spread a lot of viruses. Even they could even spread the coronavirus because of the way they interact, and they're mammals. So they can transmit diseases to humans who are also mammals easier. A lot of people in medicine school also practice on rats because of the structure of their tissues. They react similar to humans, so they can transmit a lot of disease to humans. As a matter of fact, the person that discovered the disease, leptospirosis, is actually Jamaican, and a lot of other type of diseases that affect Jamaicans, like dengue fever. He discovered that the leptospirosis is caused by rats. Anyways, back to the Pied Piper. He said the mayor must save them from the rats. Soon, everyone was shouting, "The mayor, the mayor." They said, "We want to see the mayor." The mayor is in his room. He was talking to his men. They all looked very sad. "I do not know what to do," said the mayor. "We have tried everything. What more is there to try? Something is wrong. Even the cats run away from the rats. Nothing can save us." Just at that time, they heard the sound of the door. The door opened and a man came in. The man looked very funny. He was very tall and thin. His clothes were blue and green. He had on a tall tin hat. In his hand was a long pipe. "I am the Pied Piper," he said. I can clear all of the rats out of this town. Will you give me $100 if I do?" $100. That must be 100 pounds. That would be how much is it? So that's like 200,000 Jamaican dollars adjusted for inflation. That's a reasonable fee. I will give you $500 if you can save us from the rats. Well, this guy offered more. The Pied Piper smiled and said, $100 would be okay. And it goes back to the story of William Tell. So we'd have to pick up back on the Pied Piper. All right, so William Tell was one of the leaders of the Swiss. He lived in the mountains with his young son. He was a brave man, and the Swiss people looked up to him. They said he could not shoot the bow and arrow. They said he could shoot the bow better than anyone else in the world. He said that when the time was ready, the brave Swiss people would fight again, that they would beat the Austrians and drive them out of the country. The captain of the soldiers hated William Tell and the other brave men. They did everything they could to make things hard for them. One day, the captain put his hat on a tall stick in the town and said that the people must bow down when they pass the hat and the stick. If they do not, they will be sent to the prison. Most of the people were afraid, so they did what the captain said. But William Tell was passing that way with his little young son. He said he would not bow down to a hat. No one can make him do it. Put him in prison, said the captain. The soldiers ran up and started to take him away. Then the captain shouted, "Stop." He went up to William Tell. "They say you are the best shot you have the best shot in the world with a bow and arrow," he said. "Let's see if that is so." He took William Tell's son and put him on the stand at the end of the market. Then he put an apple atop of this young boy's head. "I want you to shoot the apple in two with an arrow," he said to William Tell. "If you do it, I will not send you to prison." Right? So that's what happened. And remember the story said he had two arrows. He used one, put one in the chamber, and he shot the apple in two. He said if he had missed and killed his son, the second arrow would be for the general. Now back to the Pied Piper. So after they refused to pay the Pied Piper, remember that the Pied Piper was promised $100. He was offered even $500, but when he completed his task, he was only given $10, so he just went away. And the children followed him. The children went with him into a mountainside town. When they reached the mountain, It opened up in front of them. The piper and all the children went inside the mountain. One little boy was too slow, and the mountain just shut as he came up to it. He was the only one left. All the men and the women from the town came running, but all their children were gone. After that little boy was very sad. He said to his mother, he wanted to go with the Pied Piper. He said the Pied Piper had played his pipe, he could hear it, to tell them about a wonderful land inside the mountain. He longed to see all the wonderful things the Pied Piper said was inside the mountain. This sounds similar to the story of Peter Pan, or the Pied Piper, right? And that's the story of the Pied Piper. And today is a longer version because I'm trying to complete this entire series. I think there are 12 stories, and now we're at story number 8. And this one is a ghost story. So if you're afraid of ghosts, so this one is titled Duppy at Christmas. One night at Christmas time, grandfather called his grandchildren to come to him. He wanted to tell them some Duppy stories. Rufus and Gussie had heard many Duppy stories from their grandfather. They loved the stories and believed all of them. When grandfather came to the end of the first story, he took up his pipe and get a smoke, but there was no tobacco in it. No tobacco. I can't tell any more stories if I don't get a smoke, said grandfather. Rufus, you and Gussie run to the shop and get some tobacco for me. Since it was Christmas time, Rufus and Gussie were glad to go on the road. They saw some other boys going to the shop, and they had a wonderful time on the road. When they reached the shop, they heard people talking about Miss Mattie. Miss Mattie had died 2 weeks before. People believed that Miss Mattie's Duppy was walking around in the night in a long white dress. She had frightened a lot of people. Rufus and Gussie were very frightened. They did not know how they would get back home. Rufus bought the tobacco. They started to run back to the yard. They moved as fast as lightning down the road. I hope Miss Mattie won't trouble us, Gussie shouted as they ran. They soon passed the last light at the corner. The rest of the way was full of black shadows. Rufus was very frightened. He was running, looking around in the shadow for any sign of Miss Mattie. Just around the corner, a big banana tree was growing by the road. The shadow of the banana tree was right down the road as the boys came around the corner. The shadow started to move. The boys nearly dropped down dead. Rufus' eyes nearly jumped out of his head. Help! Gussie shouted. Duppy! Miss Mattio! Miss Mattie! Rufus shouted. He dropped the tobacco. The two of them run, bawling down the road. They did not stop till they reached home and see the picture of them running there. The shadows behind them. Grandfather heard the boys bawling coming. They were so frightened they could not talk. He rubbed them down with white rum. I can't believe this white rum business come back around here. He rubbed them down with white rum first. After that, the boys told him how Miss Mattie's Duppy nearly killed them at the corner. Grandfather laughed. That must be the shadow of the banana tree moving, he said. A tree like that used to be there when I was a boy, and the same thing happened to me one night. He put his hand on the heads of the boys. You must not believe in Duppy stories so much, he said. Maybe I should stop telling them to you. But we like them, said Rufus and Gussie. We just have to tell ourselves that they're only stories. Okay. It was pretty cool. Story number 9. Oh, and here's Grandpa comforting Gussie and Rufus. Story number 8, Fishes, starts. Have you ever been to the sea? If you have, then you must know many fish. I don't know. Many fish live in there. You can see some of these fish when you swim in the water. But to see most of them, you need to go out in a boat. Many people go out in boats every day. These people go out to catch fish for us to eat. But even with a boat, there are many fishes that you cannot catch. These fishes live near the very deep parts of the sea, the depths of the sea. They do not look like the fish that we eat. They look very strange. They look strange because there's no light in the deep part of the sea. It's very dark and cold down there. It's so dark, these strange fishes must carry their own lights with them. And that one is called antlerfish, the one with a little light thing. See it here? So there's antlerfish and an eel on this picture. So they have to carry their own light with it. They're called bioluminescent. Bio meaning light and luminescent meaning, no, bio meaning life. Bio, like biology meaning life. Luminescent meaning light. Luminous, light. Some of these lights are in the skin of the fish, bioluminescent. Their skin light up the water around them. Other times, the light are in their eyes. Sometimes they even hold headlights up. Deep sea fish use these lights to catch other fish around them. They could also look for things to eat with these strange lights. I would like to have light. Would you like to have light in your skin or eyes? Would you like to hold up your headlight? If you do, you could always see in the dark, just like fishes of deep cold, deep blue sea. And see the pictures here. All right. And this story, I remember this story like it was yesterday. This was one of my favorite stories when I was a little boy. And this used to play on TV some Christmas time and some Easter times as well. This one is called Gulliver's Travels. And see the picture, it starts it off here, Gulliver's in the water. It starts. There was once a boy called Gulliver. He very much wanted to travel and see the world. When he grew up, he became a doctor. He got a job on a ship. He was going to sail the South Sea. He was very happy as he sailed his ship away. At first, all went well, but after a time, there was a big storm. The ship hit a reef and broke in two. The ship went down into the storm. Everybody in it went down with everybody in it. Only Gulliver was left. He swam and swam until he reached land in front of him. By the time the storm was over, he walked out of the water and threw himself to the ground. He was very tired, so tired that he fell asleep at once. He fell asleep for a long time. When he came out of the sleep, he was tied up. He was so amazed to find that he could not move. Somebody tied him up to the ground when he was sleeping. Even its head was tied down. He could not hear noise, but he could hear noise. He could hear noise, but he could not see anything. After a time, he could feel something moving on his leg. The thing moving up and down came to his face. When he looked down, he saw a very small man. He was standing on Gulliver's neck. He had a bow and arrow in his hand. At the same time, Gulliver felt some other people climbing up on him. Gulliver gave a shout, and all the little people ran back. Some of them jumped down off Gulliver and almost killed themselves. And see, they tied down Gulliver here. Then their soldiers started shooting at them with arrows. The arrows felt like 100 sharp pins to Gulliver. After a time, their king came. He climbed up on a very big box and talked to Gulliver for a long time. Gulliver could not tell what he was saying, but he found the name of the country was Lilliput. And there's a place in Jamaica called Lilliput in St. James, actually. By this time, Gulliver was feeling very hungry. He could not move one hand. So he makes signs that he wanted food. The little people climbed up with meat and bread for him. The pieces of food were so small, it took a lot of time to make him full. Little people were amazed at how much he could eat. The next, so see he's still tied down in these other two pictures. And the next day, they had built a cart to carry him into town. It took 500 little men to build it. 900 men had to take him up and put him in the cart. It took 1,500 of their donkeys to pull him to town. Everybody came out to look at him. They were very amazed to see him. They call him Man Mountain. 6 bad boys fired arrows at him. One of the arrows missed his eyes. Some soldiers caught the boy and gave it to Gulliver to frighten them. Gulliver put up 5 of them in his pocket. He put the other one to his mouth as if he were going to eat him. The boy cried out, and everyone was frightened. Then Gulliver laughed and let the 6 boys go. They ran away, and everybody was happy. So see him pretending that he's going to eat the little boy, but he did not. He wasn't going to eat him. After a time, the king of Lilliput let Gulliver walk around as much as he wished. The town was very pretty. People were friendly and happy. One day, Gulliver was able to do something good for the people of Lilliput. The town caught a fire, and the fire was too big for the people to put out. But Gulliver put it out very easy. Another time, he saved the people of Lilliput from their enemies. Their enemies lived on an island nearby. They were getting many ships ready to come to Lilliput to fight, but Gulliver walked over to the island and tied the enemy ships together. He pulled them back to Lilliput. That was the end of the fight. So see him tying the ships together there. Gulliver stayed in Lilliput for nearly a year. Then one day he saw a red boat on the reef. He swam out to the reef, pulled it in, and fixed it. Then he left the island and set sail. He was picked up by a ship and taken back to his country. Nobody believed him when he told them about Lilliput. Right. So that's the story of Gulliver's Travels. Story number 11. And we're getting to the end. This is the penultimate story. This one is entitled Smaller and Smaller. I think I'm getting smaller, said Errol to his mother. What do you think? Don't be foolish, said mother. You're not getting smaller. You are a growing boy. You are getting bigger every day. But Errol was not sure. His clothes were getting too big for him. His cap did not fit his head. That night at the dinner table, Errol's father looked at him. Begin eating, Errol, and sit up when you're at the table. I cannot see you. I'm sitting up, said Errol, but I think I'm getting smaller. Don't be foolish, answered father. You are a growing boy. You are getting bigger every day. Errol was still not sure. The next morning, Errol had to go to school, but he could not reach the latch of the gate to get out. He waited for his mother to open the latch for him. I know I'm getting smaller, he said to his mother. You do look a little smaller today, said his mother. But wait and see what happened to you when you get home from school. Then Errol began walking to school. He started to feel weak. By the time he reached school, everybody was looking at him. When he was in class, one of the boys said, look at Errol, he's getting smaller and smaller. He looks like a little baby. And it actually goes back to this story with the pot and all of that. And the others, this story about Errol Small going to school is around the next side, but I didn't bother to read it. Anyways, the guys, this is the picture of the guy putting out the fire for the little boy, saving the house and all of that. And when Errol came back from school, so we're skipping some of the story. When Errol came from school, Errol's mother could hear him crying. She went into his room. Errol was crying in his bed. Errol, my dear, she said, stop crying. No, I think you're having a bad dream. Do not be afraid. It's only a dream. Come and have some hot milk. That will make you feel better. But Errol was feeling better by now. He was happy that it had only been a dream. I dreamt that I was getting smaller and smaller, he said. I dreamt that I was getting smaller and smaller, he said to his mother. His mother hugged him and smiled. That was a foolish dream. You are a growing boy. You are getting bigger every day. Oh boy. And this story is a Christmas story. This story is the last story of the stream, it says, baby Jesus is born. See here. So this is basically a Christmas story. Christmas. It's not a Christmas carol. Carol is a song. But yeah, this is the Christmas story. All right. Long ago, Joseph and his wife Mary had to go from Nazareth to Bethlehem. It was a very long way, and Mary was going to have a baby. Joseph brought their little donkey and let his wife ride on its back while they walked. They reached Bethlehem. It was late. Mary was very tired and cold from the long ride. Joseph hurried to the nearest inn and went to speak to the innkeeper, but the man said the inn was full. The whole town was full of people. There were no room for them in the inn. But there was a small stable in the back of the inn where they kept animals. If you could stay there, you could stay there if they want. I'll show you. The innkeeper took Joseph to the stable. There were some cows, donkeys, and sheep in it. There were plenty of dry grass in the manger, so it's called a manger, for animals to eat, and it's warm. Joseph thanked the innkeeper and hurried into the stable with Mary and the little donkey. He had made a bed of dry grass for his wife. That night, Mary had her baby. She covered the small child and put him in one of the mangers to sleep beside her. But Joseph looked at the little boy and said, "What should we call him, Mary?" He asked. "His name is Jesus," said Mary. Late one Later on the night Jesus was born, some shepherds came looking after their sheep near Bethlehem. The night was cold. Sitting around the fire, they talked late into the night. Suddenly, as they talked, a bright light around them came. The light saw an angel dressed in white. The shepherds were afraid. They fell to the ground and covered their faces. The angel started to speak. "Do not be afraid," he said. "I bring you very good news. Wonderful thing has come to pass. Today, someone is born in Bethlehem who will save the world. You will find him, a newborn baby in a manger." Suddenly, many more angels dressed in white came and started singing. After a time, the shepherds covered their faces, saw the lights of the angels were gone. The old shepherd spoke, "Come and let us go to Bethlehem and see the thing that has come to pass." They all hurried to the town. They went to the stable at the back of the inn and knocked at the door. When Joseph opened the door, they, "Is there a newborn baby here in the manger?" "Yes," Joseph replied. The shepherds came inside and looked at the baby, who was sleeping quietly. "Here is one who will save the world." They looked at the baby for a long time. Then they went back to look after their sheep. They spoke quietly of the wonderful things that had come to pass. That's the Christmas story. And the last poem is Baby's Drinking Song. And the stream will end very soon after this poem. So it goes. And here's the picture of the shepherds in the manger with baby Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. Baby drinking song. Sip a little, sup a little, from your little cup a little. Sip a little, sup a little, put it in your lip a little. Tip a little, tap a little, tap a little, not into your lap, or it will drip a little, drop a little on the table, chop a little. And the mother and the baby here, they're singing the baby song. So it's been an hour. Hope it's not too long. I hope you made it to the end. Love you. Look out for the other one, maybe today or maybe Friday.